Okay, so we're greeted today by our presenter, Sharon Wander, who's a longtime member of the club, a founding member, right? And she's presenting to us on a flash trip that some of the club members took to Southeast Arizona and specifically presenting on the butterfly part. And then next month, Wade is going to presenting on other flora and fauna that they saw on the trip. So thank you, Sharon.
Okay. Okay, so do you want me to turn all this?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Testing now. Can you, okay, working, okay. So, first week of last September, 6 of us, we put together, this is not consistent. We put together a quickly put together a quick trip to Arizona, literally over a weekend, late in August. And we went to Southeast Arizona for September 1st to 9th. Where does this go? It's not happy, okay. It's not working on the. Nor is the arrow thing working.
Okay. What is it doing now?
No, it's not working.
Maybe because
Oh, there you go. If you just press there,
Oh, that, oh, okay.
just on the
Not
right
arrow.
side.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I don't know why that didn't.
That's okay. So we flew into Tucson and spent several days around Tucson. The very first day, we did a big loop. This is not the exact route. I couldn't find the roads out into the desert. The second day, we went to Sabino Canyon. Third day, we brief stop at Saguaro National Park and then up Mount Lemmon. And we also did the lower slopes of Mount Lemmon on Sabino Canyon Day. Then we went south to Madera Canyon. We didn't stay there. That was just a day trip. After we were done in Madera Canyon, we bopped around a little south of Sonoita that you can see just to the east a little bit. And then from there, we went to Sierra Vista, or where we stayed, and did some side trips into the Huachucas. So why were we there? Why were we there? The great attraction in Southeast Arizona are the Sky Islands. These are a group of, maybe 55 small mountain ranges that extend from Southeast Arizona into northern Mexico and east into parts of New Mexico. And the exact number of Sky Islands depends on who's counting. But there's roughly 55 and about 32 of them are in Arizona or in North America, or in the United States, excuse me. And it's an area of incredible biodiversity. There are some 7,000 species of plants and animals in the Sky Islands. And the reason, whoops. The reason that it's so biodiverse is all the biotic influences from several different types of habitats coming south from the Rocky Mountain area, coming north from the Sierra Madre in Mexico, from the west, the Sonoran Desert influence, from the east, the Great Plains and mostly Chihuahuan Desert influence, and also a bit of neotropics from the south. So all these converge on these groups of small mountain ranges, and the elevational differences combined with all these biotic influences make for an incredibly diverse area. And going up any individual mountain, you will cross through various life biomes, from desert to fir forest, if the mountain is high enough. And it differs between the north slope and the south slope. Obviously, north slopes have more of the northern influence, and south slopes have more of the Mediterranean influence from Mexico. So it just makes for an incredible mix of habitats, environmental conditions, and supports tremendous amount of flora and fauna. But the day we arrived in Tucson, we went out Sasco Road into nice desert habitat, some very nice rocky scenery as you see ahead of us, and started seeing butterflies. Now pipeline swallowtail is something we see here, but Jonathan's beautiful ethereal photo, I just couldn't resist. And it's on an interest. We saw a lot of this tansy leaf tansy aster plant. That was one of the favorite nectar plants that we saw. Lots of southern dog faces. And on Jim's picture, oh yes, the initials are those of the photographer. JS is Jim Springer, FP is Fred Pfeiffer, JK is Jonathan Kleisis, WW is obviously Wade, and there's a couple of SWs in there, and also RD for Rini. But Jim's in the up here really shows the dog face, maybe the best, with the little eye in the muzzle. So we saw lots of those. Mexican yellows were fairly common in certain places with their little tails and the combination of white and yellow wings. Here is Rini's photo. I think this was in Ramsey Canyon, but not sure. Yeah, and a nice puddle of mostly Mexican yellows. There's one dog face at least sneaking in there if you can find it. There wasn't a lot of puddling because there weren't a lot of puddles. It was very dry, even though we were at the end of the monsoon and it had been a good monsoon, but it was really dry. Now sleepy orange we do see here in Jersey in a few spots, but not tailed orange very much. Dainty sulfur, Jonathan's nice photo. There weren't a lot of these. I'm going through the butterflies in taxonomic order. It was kind of impossible to assign them to the places we were at and which butterflies were taken in which spot. So I'm just running through them. So this was our first main day out of Tucson. We went up to Sabino Canyon, which is in the foothills of the Santa Catalina Mountains. This is a long paved road. It's about 7.5 miles long. We were there on a Sunday. Was it Sunday? In any case, there were a lot of people there. A lot of people walk that road up and back all the way, or you can take a shuttle. You can take it both ways, or you can take it up and ride it back. So it's really nice, and lots of people were taking advantage of this. It was very encouraging to see so many people enjoying the nature of the place. And here's where we really started. We were walking around on Sasco Road. We were basically on the road, butterflying the roadsides. Here we could get out and walk around in almost a garden-like setting that they have there. So we started to see cacti of various kinds. And the saguaro, that's kind of the signature species. They can live to be 200 years old easily, and they don't start growing arms until they're 75 or so. Very interesting. And each arm gives them more reproductive capacity because they only flower at the tips of the arms. So every arm provides an opportunity to put out more flowers. And they're pollinated primarily by white-winged doves, as well as bats. And I saw a picture of a house finch on one. So they have quite a few pollinators, but I was surprised to see white-winged dove, which is very dependent on the cactus. It eats the nectar, the pollen, the fruit, the seeds, very, very dependent on saguaro. We saw Siva juniper hair streak, which is similar to ours, juniper, but this line here is straight instead of crooked, and it lacks the spots that our juniper hair streak has toward the base of the hindwing. Leda mini streak. Now, of course, juniper hair streak may be the size of your thumbnail. Leda mini streak is half the size of your thumbnail. It's a little tiny thing, but very pretty with its red markings. And it has this beautiful pebbly texture to the wing surfaces. And the host plant is mesquites for this little tiny hair streak. Marine blue, it's such a pretty little butterfly. I love the wavy pattern, which I don't know if that's where it gets its name from, but they have that lovely intertwined sort of beige and white squiggly lines. We saw lots of marine blues.
What's the flower with the purple and yellow?
Oh, I don't think it's the, let me go back. Going the wrong way. It was an aster, but I'm not sure it was the tansy aster. Western pygmy blue, again, this is teeny, teeny tiny. When they say pygmy, they mean it. Jonathan, nobody sent me a pygmy blue to begin with. So Jonathan then sent me one that he took in Texas. And then later, Reedy sent me one from this trip, but I couldn't bear not to show you Jonathan's, which is also gorgeous. And that the food plant for Western pygmy blue are salt bushes, the genus Atroplex. This is four-winged saltbush. Lots of blues. Pretty much everywhere we went, we saw Rickert's blue and a few Serranus and not too many Acmons that I recall. Now here we are going up the lower slopes of Mount Lemmon, either the first or second day, and we stopped at a place called Molino Overlook. And this is looking back toward Tucson, sprawling out here in the background. And in the back here, you can see here's another Sky Island mountain range. I don't know which one that is. But here we are in what's called the life zone called Sonoran Desert Scrub. And these are the characteristic plants of there. And here we have them, Ocotillo, saguaro, there's prickly pears here, and these are likely mesquites, most of the shrubs that you see here. But it isn't all dry. Right at this same overlook, we walked a few yards further in and came to a stream, and you have all this really lush vegetation and quite a few butterflies. This is, I can't get it. This is, oh, I hit the wrong button. I'll get to that later. This is a little higher up, and you can see the vegetation has changed. We're into, and again, you can see the tremendous sprawl of Tucson in the background. We're into evergreen vegetation here. And basically, this is pinyon juniper at this point. Here's Jim way out on this really big rocky shelf that was out there, but it's very dry. So you get these kind of drought-loving plants. And a little higher, you're into pine forest. And you can see that this forest has been, this part was spared, but in the back there was a burn. On the south slope, you get different plants than on the north slope. On the north slope, this would have ponderosa pine. On this slope, it has Apache pine, Chiricahua pine, and Arizona pine, among others. So different species on different slopes in many cases.
I'd have to wait till tomorrow for the movie. I forgot. I had to zoom.
Okay. I think we only saw one or a couple of fatal metal marks. Underneath this looks a lot like our northern metal mark, but it isn't. I have a picture. I didn't get a picture, or nobody gave me a picture of this from above. So this is one from Mexico from quite a few trips back. And we saw lots of Palmer's metal marks. That was pretty much the only metal mark we really saw in any numbers. I think we only saw the two species. But Palmer's kind of easily recognizable by the spotted pattern and the fact that it has orange, oops, there's orange markings at the border of the hind wing. That separates it from a couple of other metal marks. There were several beautiful pictures of the same species, so I couldn't choose between them. Here's Fred's. And Jonathan got a really colorful pair here, really beautiful. No, they're not differentiated by color. And the plant they're on is Baccharis. We have a Baccharis here in New Jersey. High tide bush is one of the names for it. There are many species of Baccharis out west, and I wasn't sure which one we were looking at, so I just called it Baccharis. Now, on the road into Madera Canyon, which is grassland on the way in, we were flushing swarms of snouts from the grasses along the roadside. I mean, hundreds or thousands of them, probably, dispatching quite a few. And we finally did come to a puddle, as you can see on the right here. And there were probably several hundred snouts puddling here. And if you look carefully, there's a few back. I don't know if I can go back or not. Well, there were a few Rickards blues in there. Okay. Once we got to Sierra Vista, we started exploring the Huachuca Mountains, which are all of this. Our first expedition was into Garden Canyon, which is actually on Fort Huachuca. Fort Huachuca is a major, let me say, a really big area there, and it's a major base. And they own Lower Garden Canyon. Later, we went into Ramsey Canyon. We had a abbreviated trip up Carr Canyon, and we went into Miller Canyon, Ash Canyon, and lastly up to Coronado Memorial. So what we're going into are all the east side canyons here, and in this desert environment, these deep canyons, which usually have permanent streams in them, they're shaded by they aren't steep rocky canyon walls, but nevertheless they do provide some shade. So a lot of plants can grow in these canyons that don't grow elsewhere, particularly like on a south slope. So they're very nicely vegetated often. Okay, this again, we're just going through this in order. We saw this in Patagonia, Gulf Fritillary. We really only saw these around gardens, and most of the butterflies that we saw were around gardens because, again, the dryness was a big factor. There just weren't a lot of wildflowers to deal with. Jim's nice shot of a Mexican fritillary. This lacks the, our variegated fritillary would have a dark line in there that separates it. Oh, Theona's checker spot, it's one of my favorites. It's quite variable. This is a very dark one. This was, I believe, at the water crossing in Garden Canyon, but they are differentiated from other checker spots by the broad white and orange bands underneath. And they have, oops. Here we go. Indian paintbrush is the host plant for Theona checker spot. We didn't see any in flower that I don't recall seeing any. Now here's a bordered patch caterpillar, no doubt on its food plant. They primarily host on plants in the aster family and mainly on sunflowers. And some of them were very accommodating. This is one that made it into Fred and Jonathan's car for a little fun. And what I like about them is they're so variable. The one in the middle and at the upper left are from our Arizona trip. The other ones are marked. These are ones I took on trips to Texas and Panama. But every one is a little bit different, and it's so fascinating. They're fairly easy to tell below because they always have the this yellow band. But even that is subject to a lot of variability. Here's quite a different one, but it still has the yellow band. So it's just a fascinating species with the variability. Here's Garden Canyon, and here you can see what I was talking about, the luxuriant vegetation in these fairly deep, well-watered canyons. And this water crossing here had lots of butterflies puddling at it, like the Theota checker spot. And Jim's taking some photos there. Here is tiny checker spot, and it's really, really tiny. We actually first saw these at that Molino overlook on Lower Mount Lemmon. And this you can tell from the near similar Aleda checker spot because it has the orange border to the hind wing. And Arizona, they feed on plants in the acanthus family, which Arizona foldwing is one. And here's the Aleda, which is very similar, but again, this has an orange, narrow orange band on the hind wing to separate it. And its host plant is our acanthus family again in tube tongues. Long flower tube tongue, it's known from long flower tube tongue in Texas, but that particular species is not recorded from Arizona, so I'm not sure what acanthus it may feed on in Arizona, but this was a possible example. Couple more crescents. Painted crescent feeds on plants in the aster family, and Texan crescent is another feeder on acanthus family plants. On California sister, just a gorgeous butterfly, but it's breathtaking below, absolutely. That lilac color is just beautiful. And this is the plain California sister has a very narrow purple band there and a little bit of orange below the white band that this one lacks. And they feed on oaks, possibly the silverleaf oak. There's many, many different oaks out in the West. And another gorgeous shot by Jonathan of Empress Lilia, of course, related to our emperors here, but she, wish I could go back. Let me try going back. Not working. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to try messing anymore. Anyhow, what that was the Bachhoff Seder, and Wade is taking a picture of a different one there in the shrubbery. Red Seder has more of a red flush to the forewing than the Bachhoff Seder, and also has the line on the hind wing is different. I'm afraid to try. This line is a little different on the hind wing. But these are butterflies that we saw in the canyons and the kind of forested canyons. And a gorgeous red bordered Seder. Jonathan got a great shot below, and he was, this one feeds on bullgrass. All the Seders feed on grasses, but I really couldn't find specific species for any of them except red bordered. And Jonathan also got a shot below. I imagine it was flipping its wings open fairly rapidly because I didn't see any basking like this. That was really cool. So it was really red bordered above. And then after wandering around the canyon, Ramsey Canyon, and seeing them, we got back to the visitor center, and there was one inside that we managed to escort outside. We showed them off to the docents there who had no idea what it was. They were obviously not butterfly people. And we saw queens, not a whole lot of queens. If we were around a garden, there were a few queens, but not too abundant. And we went to Patagonia, which is just a delightful, artsy little town with a lot of public art there and a wonderful, wonderful community garden. We saw a good proportion of our butterflies in this community garden, which is very well tended by the local garden people. And we met a couple of them while we were there. And it was kind of a lifesaver in terms of finding butterflies after wandering around the desert with not a lot to see. But it's really fun seeing all the kind of public art. And we had a wonderful lunch at a place called the Gathering Grounds, a very nice little restaurant in the middle of town.
See a lot of hummingbirds there too?
Yes, we went to Patton's Hummingbird Haven or whatever it's called, and also in Ramsey Canyon. And I can't remember, Madera, did they have? Santa Rita Lodge, and yeah, yes, we saw a lot of hummingbirds. We will see them next month. Dull fire tip. Now this is fun. This trip was a little bit of a recreation of Wade and my honeymoon trip to Southern Arizona 40 years ago. And when I went, a while ago, I went back through our slides. We weren't butterflyers then, we were birders. And I found a picture of a butterfly, one butterfly, and it was a dull fire tip. I managed to ID it as a dull fire tip. So we go back and we're going, I think this was Carr Canyon, but I'm not sure. And what must have been the exact same spot with the exact same stand of American basket flower was loaded with dull fire tips. They feed on oaks, but they really like nectaring on this. It's a centaurea. It's a knapweed, like our spotted knapweed.
That's native?
Yes, yes. A couple nice pictures of Arizona skipper by Jonathan and Fred. You can tell this is from several similar species. It has this wide white, where's this going? Look at this. Oh, there we go. This wide white band in the forewing and these blocky dark blotches in the hind wing. And as a name, oh, I forget what this feeds on. Escapes me. Oh, there it is, kidney wood, which is in the Leguminosae family. Acacia skipper, this was kind of a beat up one. We didn't see a lot of good ones. Normally, this would have a white fringe and black points at the ends of the veins, but this one, most of that has been worn off. So he's a little worse for wear. Golden-headed scallopwing. This is a little thing if you've seen our scallopwing here. And it feeds on mallows, as do the powdered skippers. We did see a Texas powder skipper, but nobody got a photo. So that, or gave me a photo anyway. So this is Jonathan's from another different trip to Texas. A beautiful thing. And notice on this one that this line, this sort of clear line in the forewing is straight. When you get to Arizona powdered skipper, in Fred's photo, this line is jagged. But otherwise very similar, and they both feed on mallows. Mournful dusky wing looks a lot like our juvenile's Horace's, except it's got the white border to the hind wing. I wish I could go back. Doesn't work. Okay, so I won't try to go back. But mournful feeds on oaks, and funereal, which you can differentiate it because of this pale patch, feeds on legumes. So very different. Toward the end of the trip, we went out Box Canyon Road. And here we're kind of seeing desert grassland here, a combination maybe of grassland on the closer slope here, where there are agaves of various kinds, a few shrubs, a lot of grasses. And this is the south-facing slope, the north-facing slope, a little different with more of an oak woodland or oak savanna look to it. Desert checkered skipper. I love the checkered skippers. This is a desert checkered skipper because, this is really frustrating.
If you go here, did you try
I'm
that?
just trying that. Maybe I didn't give it a chance. No,
That
it
went the
keeps
other
going
way?
forward. It keeps going forward.
And this doesn't work either.
Gonna have to.
Is this
maybe-
going back? Is this going forward?
This is going forward. This one? Oh. This is working, okay.
Okay,
Okay, good. This is, it's so hard to see this. Desert checkered skipper has a white dot here, a white dot here at the wingtip, and the checkers are evenly spaced. You look at common white, common/white checkered skipper, it lacks this spot, and the black checks kind of run together toward the wingtip. I don't think we saw common, did we? I think we only saw desert. Erickson's white skipper, a little more boldly marked. We didn't, it's only maybe one of those, I think. Yeah, not many at all. And skipperlings, cute little guys. Our formerly Arctic skipper is a skipperling that we used to have in New Jersey. We kept looking for Southern, but we could never turn one of these into Southern. Southern has a white ray in the hind wing. But we got two nice photos of this little orange guy. Karis skipper is relatively uncommon, and we were lucky enough to find that right at the Patagonia post office. They had some public plantings. One of these is lantana. Not sure what the other one is. But that's a pretty little skipper. Large roadside skipper we saw, I think this is the only roadside skipper we saw. And this was in the garden at Patagonia, I think. Patents, right, yeah. Eufaula skipper, which is about as plain as you can get, but we don't see them around here, so it was nice to see it. Again, you can see all these ones on zinnias. Virtually all of those were in the Patagonia Community Garden. As was violet clouded skipper. It's got this little sort of cloud-like marking, like the clouded skipper that we see very rarely in New Jersey, but it's got this extra white spot here. And this was just nectaring on, I think they look like pentas. Again, this was in the garden at Patagonia. But it's, oops. Come on. Let me try this. Okay, now the arrows are working. I had to put in this grass. All these skippers feed on grasses, but green sprangle top was just a cool sounding grass. So I found a picture of it. And then the highlight skipper, of course, was Huachuca giant skipper. Now, when we went to the 2012 meeting, NABA meeting in Sierra Vista, we had to go all the way up Carr Canyon Road and hike in about another half a mile under a threatening thunderstorm. And Marge and I were with nobody else in the NABA group, or our New Jersey NABA group. We managed to see one just as the skies were letting loose. This one, we walked into Ramsey Canyon, and I think, Jonathan, you just happened to see it fly, and it flew down into a little tiny stream bed. And it was so hard to see down in there. It's just totally camouflaged. And it doesn't look like it from this picture, but it was extremely hard to find. But we were lucky to get it at all without an expedition. It did. Oh, it was very, very cooperative. And that is the end. That's our end of the butterfly portion of the trip. So any questions? Good. No questions? Okay.
Thank you, Sharon.
Sure.
Any questions in the room?
Yeah, how big is the giant skipper? Is it as big as our,
2 inches,
yeah?
inch and a half to 2 inches, I would think, the forewing length. But they're, that looks like a big fat female too. Okay.
I had a tree question on the slide that showed the different biomes.
Mhm.
And at the top, if the mountain was high
Right.
enough, there would be a fir.
Right.
Forest, and I was just curious, would it be Doug fir? Or
Engelmann, well,
uh,
yes, Doug fir, Engelmann spruce, ponderosa, well, the pine is a little lower, The spruce and
So
fir are
the
higher.
Fir would, probably be the Douglas.
Yes.
Sharon,
Mhm.
how big is it, that giant skipper?
Yeah, I think the forewing is probably 1.5 to 2 inches.
So. And it's a lot bigger than the skippers we have here.
Oh,
maybe?
gosh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
way bigger.
The silver spotted.
But yeah, silver spot size. Yeah, it's bigger than the grass skippers, yes,
Yeah.
way bigger.
Yeah.
Although I guess it is a grass skipper. Well, no, it's a giant skipper. Oh, I have another slide. Parry's agave, which is not down in this well-watered canyon, but if you go up the slope, not very far at all, you're back into the sort of that desert grassland type of habitat, and the agave would be up there. So I was reading that larvae bore into the leaf and eat around in there, and then come out and pupate at the bottom of the plant, something like that.
Yeah, because that's a tough plant.
Yeah, I know. You would think when it first hatches, how does it even start nibbling? But yeah, because those things are like leather. Any questions from the online folks?
I have a question. I'm just wondering if there's like a list of all your sightings posted anywhere, because some of these species I've never heard of and I want to look into.
No. We could put it on the website or on the newsletter or something.
That'd be cool.
We,
'Cause we-
the meeting is recorded, so we'll post the recording, so they will be there, but, if you have a list, we could put it in a newsletter or something.
Yeah, Rini made up a really nice list.
Oh, okay, you already have a list. So we just
Uh-huh,
need to put
it's,
it
yes.
somewhere. Okay, yeah, you can send it to us, we'll put it in the newsletter. Good idea.
There was a question from here. It was pretty high. Well, around Phoenix, it was 110. 110. But when you get down, but we were in Tucson, Phoenix very long. We rapidly went south to Tucson. It's a little bit higher there, and as you go south to Sierra Vista, even higher. So it was probably in the 90s there. And as you went up these mountains, like at the top of Mount Lemmon, it's like 60 to 70. Yeah, really. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because you're 8,000 or 9,000. 60. Yeah. Yeah, right. I was saving that for a wage program.
On the way back, we had to see if
Oh, God, yeah, that was probably over 110.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It was really
the
bad.
time you went, like the optimal time to see butterflies in this area, or?
Normally it would be after the monsoon, because they do have a monsoon season in southeastern Arizona which is thunderstorms, almost every day. And but they're scattered, they're quite scattered. So even though it was somebody told us it was a pretty good monsoon season, most places were very dry, very dry. And
It's better than, for instance, the spring.
I can't honestly say, but I think probably more rarities come up in the fall, just like down in the valley. Yeah. Yeah. But there's a very active NABA chapter, the Southeast chapter there, Southeast Arizona chapter. And it's really, the biodiversity is just, so wonderful there. and being able to go up. I think I read like every 1,000 feet up one of the mountains is like going 300 miles north geographically. And so you really get some market changes. So you could keep yourself occupied there for a long, long time. Very nice.
Is it easy to find places to stay when you travel?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
For those folks contemplating going there, we spent some time at Fort Huachuca, but that is an active military base. So you have to
Oh, yeah.
sign in, they gotta do a background check, which I barely passed. And parts of it are closed. I remember when I was there years ago, I thought there was more roads that were open.
What they say, it was like 3
Garden
miles. that-
Canyon.
Yeah,
The 8 to the town was like 3 miles that are now closed.
Yeah, to Garden Canyon.
even so, there's plenty of places to visit in Fort Huachuca, and that's one of my favorite places. There were lots to see there.
But Garden Canyon was the only one that's actually on Fort Huachuca. All the
I'm
others,
just saying, Fort Huachuca in general was.
Yeah,
one of
oh,
my favorite places,
yeah. There's some beautiful grasslands and oak savanna type habitats.
Right.
Very nice. Yeah, just, I love all those habitats down there, wherever I am.
But if you go to Garden Canyon, make sure you have all the.
All-wheel drive.
Now, why do you say
Do you-
We rented it. Really, and we got it, it wasn't. meant to be.
Yeah, well, that's a story for another time.
That's a story for Wade's program.
No photographs.
Yeah, definitely all-wheel drive. Okay. Good, okay, thank you.